Springdale at?
Keysport.
Hazelwood. McKeesport. Claire.
Duquesne, Penn Hill,
Glassboro. I got something to add to this.
and stink.
Pittsburgh does stink.
This is Lincolnboro, a suburban community just a short drive from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Here, there are no crowds, no traffic jams, just trees, gardens, and flowers. This is a Garden of Eden. Or is it? A rusty marker, a corroded street sign, a boy with smarting eyes. Is something wrong in paradise? Yes. And the enemy is a short distance away on the Monongahela River. The enemy blots out the sun, destroys beauty, and brings sickness to this once lovely river valley. This coke plant sends poisonous fumes throughout the countryside in Lincolnboro. You can't see the enemy, but he's there, in the form of the killer gas sulfur dioxide and other murderous air pollution.
Once this was also a paradise. I'm standing on a hillside above the Monongahela River about 20 miles south of Pittsburgh, where 40 years ago, people from Pittsburgh and towns up and down the Monongahela Valley used to come for picnics and to view the rose gardens that once covered this hillside. The roses have long since faded and died. All that is left is this desolation. Dead trees, rank undergrowth, and a graveyard for junked automobiles. The killer is sulfur dioxide and a mixture of other gases and chemicals coming out of that plant, which is the largest coke manufacturing plant in this country. It manufactures coke for steel mills all over the United States. Sulfur dioxide and other pollutants are carried by the wind into Lincolnboro, Portview, and other residential areas up and down this river valley. There are two principal sources of pollution in the plant. The first is a combination of coal and coke oven gas, sulfur dioxide, and fine particles of dirt and soot. The second sort of pollution is the water that is poured on the red-hot coke to quench it. The water is vaporized and comes out of the stacks as dense white clouds. The coke works quenches with contaminated water filled with thousands of pounds of dangerous chemicals. They include ammonium chloride, cyanide, a killing chemical, phenol or carbolic acid, and other murderous goodies. But sulfur dioxide is the major pollutant. Biologists know that soft-leafed vegetables like corn and tomato plants and ornamentals such as forsythia, hydrangea, and rose bushes are affected by sulfur dioxide. The gas enters the undersides of the leaves and affects the cells in such a way that they cannot produce chlorophyll. Without chlorophyll, the plant cannot manufacture the basic carbohydrate that the plant needs to live. Long-term exposure to sulfur dioxide kills plants. Sulfur dioxide also corrodes iron, dissolves stone, rots wood, and peels away car and house paint. Sulfur dioxide makes your eyes water, your nose smart, and irritates your throat and makes you cough. You cannot see it, but when you breathe it in over a long period of time, it can destroy lung tissue. 20 miles up the river is the town of Donora, where 22 people died in 1948 when stagnant air settled over that town and stayed there for 4 days. Lincolnboro and Portview could have been another Donora. This year we will have many more such days when the air is stagnant and the pollutants are trapped beneath it. Paradise can become a death trap.
I'm a sophomore here at South Allegheny High School. And last spring I had a class in Algebra 1, and the classroom is right down there. And when the pollution got bad, and it came over the hill and settled in the classroom, and it got real stuffy, and everybody got a headache and sore throats and stuffy nose, and everybody just didn't feel good. So we got up and walked out, and we had the rest of our class outside. And I was talking to some of the students and the parents a couple days ago and during the school year, and we were talking about pollution control. And the parents are really afraid of it because they say as long as there's smoke coming out of the smokestacks, then there's food on the table and money and clothes for the kids, and the fathers are working. Well, I had a father, and he died 5 years ago, and he worked in a steel mill all his life, and he died of a heart attack, and I'm just wondering if that's not why, because of the pollution.
I have to hose this porch down twice a day due to all the soot that accumulates from the coke works. This dirt is all around us here in Lincoln Borough. In fact, this is an accumulation of one day's dirt. In addition to hosing down my porch, I also serve as president of Lincoln Borough Council. For 2 years, we have tried to get 134 homes on this site when we have been refused mortgage loans from the FHA, and this is the reason why. The site is subject to value-destroying influences such as continuous sulfur-laden dense smoke from U.S. Steel Clairton Works, causing a health hazard and an undesirable environmental condition affecting continued markability of proposed homes in this tract. Let me repeat, we were refused the loan. This letter was sent to us from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Signed, Mr. Roland F. Sherman, Acting Director.
There we go.
Yes, I've lived here for all my life. I've worked in the plant over across the river for 40 years. And there was times when I was younger, I used to fish in the river here. We caught all kinds of fish, bass, all game fish. Today, there is no game fish in the river. There might be a few carp. That's a result of the water and air pollution in the Monongahela Valley. Why, people ask me, why'd I stay here? Well, I've been here all my life. It was a beautiful place at one time. God gave us this earth to take care of, not to destroy it. Especially this valley here. This was the most lush valley in Pennsylvania at one time. But look at it now. Pollution exports and the reports that I get of these waters in the Monongahela Valley are the dirtiest of any place in the United States.
As a matter of fact, there's something I want to show you.
Okay.
Have a look at this here. This is a car that my brother and I drove back here and set it out 5 years ago. It didn't come from the junkyard, it come off the road. And we just set it here to see what would happen. And with the exception of we thought we'd sell some parts. But how are we going to sell any parts? Look here, would you buy that? That consists of the whole car.
I live in Liberty Borough, across the hill from the coke works. And my friends are always telling me about how bad the air is up there. But little do they realize that their air is also bad, because you can't smell or feel or touch sulfur dioxide, but it's still in the air, even on a beautiful day like today. I'm a registered nurse, and I am aware that lung diseases and emphysema are one of the major causes of death in America today. But I am even more concerned because of the fact that I'm a mother of 2 small children. When I wake up in the morning and see the pollution coming over the hill, and it's almost impossible to see the road in front of me, I find it necessary to tie handkerchiefs over the children's mouth in some futile attempt to block out some of these pollutants. Even though I know the sulfur dioxide can't be filtered. And when I send them out into this air, I feel just like a murderess. I close the door behind me and I think, it's handkerchiefs today. What will it be tomorrow?
I am a physician specializing in lung diseases. I don't have to call the Bureau of Air Pollution Control in Pittsburgh to check on the sulfur dioxide content or particulate concentration. Here at Shadyside Hospital in Pittsburgh, we have our own air pollution detectors. These are people suffering from asthma, bronchitis, and emphysema. On days when there is a temperature inversion, on days when the air is stagnant, my phone rings constantly. These patients do not wait for appointments, but go directly to the hospital for emergency room treatment. Here in the intensive care unit, the staff is working with patients, fighting for each breath of air. We often hear the argument that we really don't know what causes emphysema, bronchitis, or asthma. But we do know that air pollution is harmful and even fatal to people suffering from these diseases. There is, however, one indisputable fact. When the polluted air becomes stagnant, people in cities die. Not just a few people, but hundreds of them. Pittsburgh, with its steel mills, coke plants, and electric power plants, is a city where we are playing Russian roulette with our lives. I single out the steel mills, coke plants, and electricity generating companies because the Allegheny County Health Department reports that 80% of our air pollution comes from these plants and not from automobile exhausts, which is the major pollution problem in Los Angeles. We have so much sulfur dioxide in Pittsburgh that it made the top 10 list of dirtiest cities in the United States last year. This is a diagram of the respiratory tree. This is the mouth, the trachea, the bronchial tubes, and the lung. This is an enlarged segment of a portion of the bronchial tree, which are lined with cilia. Cilia are small hairs which push the mucus from the lower segments of the lung to the mouth from which it is expectorated. Certain air pollutants, such as sulfur dioxide, will paralyze the cilia and make them immobile. When this occurs, the mucus is trapped down here and the patient literally chokes. You have heard some of your friends say, "Why all the fuss about air pollution in Pittsburgh?" Pittsburgh was such a dirty city that one couldn't see the sun at noontime, and one had to change their shirt twice a day. Pittsburgh's a clean city now. Well, my patients in this unit, who are fighting for every breath, have a hard time believing that. And frankly, so do I.
As an economist, I can tell you that the cost of cleaning the air is only a small portion of the revenue of a corporation. For every $100 invested in new equipment, only $3 to $5 are required to install the equipment required to clean the air. That's hardly more than the cost of painting buildings and landscaping the grounds. What would it cost to clean up the air in Pittsburgh? A U.S. government study says it would cost $30 a year for each person over a period of 5 years. That's about what you spend on gasoline for your car every month. You would save much more than that in health costs related to air pollution. In addition, you would save an extra $100 a year in cleaning costs. As an economist, I say, do not be fooled by talk that it costs too much to clean the air in Pittsburgh and Allegheny County, or that companies will have to shut down and lay off workers. There are now strict federal air pollution regulations in all states that require that plants obey them. There is no reason for a plant to shut down in Pittsburgh and move somewhere else. Remember, Pittsburgh is one of the 10 dirtiest cities in the United States. Threats of economic blackmail and layoff can no longer stop enforcement of the law.
Here in a wood-paneled courtroom, the people of Allegheny County proved they could do something to stop deadly air pollution. Adults, teenagers, volunteer citizen groups like GASP, even babies, used their most powerful weapon, public opinion and public pressure. Over a period of 15 months, evidence and testimony was presented to the Variance and Appeals Board shown here. Testimony against the giant U.S. Steel Corporation and its Clarton Coke plant. Outside the courtroom, citizens like yourself brought the facts to the public. GASP members published newsletters, appeared on TV and radio talk shows, and spoke before clubs and civic groups. They met with county and state officials, and aroused the public to the terrible dangers of the pollution at the Clairton Coke plant. Housewives and students sold clean air buttons, baked cookies, raised funds, and manned information booths at shopping malls. Students organized ecology clubs at their schools, discussed pollution with their parents, and aroused public opinion against the polluter. After 15 months of hearings, the Variance and Appeals Board made this landmark decision. It denounced the U.S. Steel Corporation for its waging a kind of blackmail, using the threat of unemployment to intimidate workers and public officials. The board said, U.S. Steel can no longer hide behind a legal technicality and ignore the public health of the community. It ruled that U.S. Steel be taken to court and made to clean up its pollution. The people of Lincoln Borough, Pittsburgh, and towns up and down the Monongahela River now know they don't have to hold their breath. They can fight for it and win.
Don't hold your breath. Fight for it.